everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I'm so excited to be here with you today. So first things first, I just had a thought pop in my head right before I hit record. Would you like to do Karma Cards live with me here on YouTube? Let me know in the comments. I've been thinking about this. I'm like, man, it's been a long time since I've done a live. I used to do these live on Facebook and now I do them on YouTube. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do some live karma cards? So if that sounds like fun to you, drop a note. I was going to say a link. Drop a note in the comments letting me know if you would be excited to do karma cards live. And of course, what that means is that for whoever's here, the first couple people, I'm going to actually give you a live karma cards reading just for you. So if that sounds like fun, let me know. Put yes in the comments or I want in or something so I can see who would be up for that. So let's talk about this week. So much has shifted for me personally over the last week since the last karma cards. And it was powerful, the last karma card. So if you haven't watched that, I highly recommend watching it because even though the messages come in a certain time window, I think the message that's coming is timeless and it can be applied anytime. So I feel like whenever you see it, that's the divine time for you to see it. So last week we talked about getting into our being state, spending more time there, moving out of our personality, moving into our higher self through a being state and seeing how long we could hold that, knowing that it's not something that we're meant to hold all day long. I mean, imagine just being, especially if you have families or responsibilities, you're going to need to drop back down into what you're connected to here at the 3D level. But moving up into that space allows you to open up and out of patterns that you're holding. And now, sometimes we want patterns. Sometimes patterns actually help us move forward. For example, if you develop a pattern of commitment, that pattern is going to help move you forward. What about a pattern of thinking you're not enough, though? How about that pattern? Well, when we move out of our conditioned responses and our personality state, where our ego is, and we move up into our being state, we set ourselves free from all the stories that we're telling ourselves, and we get to just be in our energy. And that is such a powerful place to be because it really lets you process, but not in a mental way. It just lets you move into more embodiment. So as you're being, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing you're trying to become or let go of. You're simply being. And those things that you have been working on developing or letting go in yourself, in that moment of being, it's like all the work you did before you got to that spot finally like clicks in and allows you to move into a deeper embodiment, either letting go of something on a deeper level or moving into something at a deeper level. So I highly encourage doing that work. Now, if you're like, Therese, what do you mean move into being? Like, what am I supposed to do? Well, it's kind of an anti-doing state. It's not a doing state. It is the opposite. It's being, right? So there's nothing you have to do. Now, this is going to upset the mind because the mind wants something to latch onto. It wants a process. It wants to be able to do something and get a result. So if we're coming at it from a mental place, we're going to feel frustrated. We're going to be sitting there going, am I doing it yet? Is it happening? Like, nothing's happening. So, first of all, if you want to move into a being state, you have to recognize, am I in my head right now? Am I trying to get a result? Am I looking for an action to take that'll help me know if I'm in my head? And if you can identify that, then the best area to move down to is the heart space, where you're going to move into more of a feeling state, right? So we're going to connect with, how am I feeling right now? And then we're going to practice letting that go. So we have to acknowledge what's happening. We have to start by acknowledging where we are. Either I'm up in my head and I'm thinking about it and I'm trying to sort of strategy my way through this, Or I'm in my heart, I'm having feelings about something, and that's blocking me from moving into being, right? Because especially if we have unacknowledged feelings that are sitting inside of us that for whatever reason we're not paying attention to. Maybe the feeling is discomfort. You don't want to be uncomfortable, and so you keep moving away from that. Or the feeling is ungrounded or nervous. And again, these are not pleasant feeling states to hang out with. So we try to avoid it. We try to get busy. We move back into the head, go back to strategy, try to get away from it, right? So the next level is identifying the feeling state and being okay with whatever's happening there. Because the only way we're going to be able to move through that state is by acknowledging it and allowing it to give us information. It just wants your attention. It wants you to notice that you're in a vibration, you're in a feeling. And so by sitting with it for a moment and being able to name it. So I like to put my hand on my heart. I close my eyes and I just ask myself, what am I feeling right now? And if I'm like tuning in right this minute, how I feel right now, I feel excited. I feel empowered. So those are the feelings. Now, if I was experiencing a negative emotion, then I would get that. Let's say I felt anxious or nervous. Let's say that was the feeling that was coming through. Then I would ask myself, after I acknowledge it, okay, I feel nervous. That's how I feel. What do I need? What do I need right now? And let that come through, right? Whatever that is. Now, whatever that is, intend that for yourself. Like maybe you need a hug and maybe there's no one around to give you a hug. I intend for you to feel held. I intend for myself to feel held. I intend myself to feel soothed, right? Whatever that hug would represent to you. And once you've done that little process, and it's pretty quick, then you've moved and created space. You're not in your head trying to make anything happen. You're not being blocked by an emotion that needs addressing. Now you're in a more open state. And in this more open state, to move into being, all we're doing here is really just focusing on the breath. Focusing on the breath moves you into being. Those who meditate regularly, you understand this. You understand that there is a pocket inside of your meditation where the mind clears itself and the emotions clear themselves, and there it is. There's that pure being state. It's being everything and nothing at once. That's the state. When we can get in that pocket for however long you can get into it, that's when the things you're trying to let go can finally let go. The things you're trying to embody, you can finally start to embody. So this week, I'm just inviting you to lean deeper into that. If you hadn't tried it yet, give that a try. Move into that state and be okay with the progress you're making right now. Because of course, with everything we do, we're at levels. Like some of us have been meditating for a long time. You're going to snap into that being state pretty quickly. You're going to be able to move yourself to the place where you can move into being. Some people are newer to that or are not comfortable with that. So you're going to go through the slower steps of addressing where are you at? Where are you hanging out? Is there anything in the way that's keeping you from this pure state? And of course, there's other ways in too. But this one is one of the easiest ways I find to get in is breathing. And that's what I've been working on. And in fact, there are so many great breathing exercises out there. I mean, there is no limit to what you and your phone can find when it comes to breathing exercises. There are free ones on YouTube. There's, people offering, free opt-ins to breathing exercises. One of my favorites is Ashtanga yoga. I love doing Ashtanga yoga, especially when we're working on the breathing, because a lot of times it's that, deep belly breathe. It's hard to do it when you're not doing it. There it is. There's Ashtanga yoga breathing, but you're really moving the breath through the body to create awakeness and power. Another great breathing exercise. I really love it. It's a little more advanced, but it's so good, is the Wim Hof method. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. You probably won't be able to see it too well on my phone. He has an app, and it does have a free version. All right, can you kind of see that? I know it's all backwards, but this is the Wim Hof method. Wim Hof. I was saying it right. I always thought I was saying it wrong. Wim, W-I-M, Hof, H-O-F method. Wim Hof method. It's amazing. So he's got a guided breathing bubble exercise. He's also got videos that explain the process. I highly encourage you to look him up on YouTube. He's got videos out there. He's done a lot of interviews about this breathing process. Help you understand what he's teaching you before you attempt it so that it resonates for you much stronger, right? Before just jumping into it. Because I find that when we understand the process of what we're doing, the results are more powerful. But what I love about that breathing process is it will get you into a being state. It's kind of hard not to be there when your only focus is really on this breath, which is completely energizing and oxygenating the body and helping it feel more revived. That's so powerful. It's such a powerful exercise to do, and I think you're really going to love it, especially if you're really into trying to achieve this higher state of consciousness, right? So our being state is a very high state of consciousness. It's connecting closer and closer to source. And the longer we can stay in there, the more we open up what's called the gateway to infinite intelligence. That's when we're connecting, we get a direct line through the crown chakra to source energy. That's where we're tapping into the quantum field. And every bit of information you ever wanted to know is right there in that field. It takes us opening up ourselves. It takes us, getting out of the mind, moving through the feeling state, aligning the body, using the breath, and opening ourselves all the way up to connect to that channel. But you can do it, and the breath is such a great way. All right. So do you get it? It's the breath. So that, I just wanted to share that with you because last week created powerful movement for me. I know I was talking to others about it, and they're feeling this energy too. There's a lot of shifting energy right now. And when I asked the team, what's the message for this week? They were talking about two things that are possibly blocking people and maybe causing obstacles, that maybe even obstacles to just allowing yourself to sit and be. There's two things they said. They said indecision is a big one right now for people. They just don't know what direction to go in. Maybe that resonates for you. Like, you want to get to the other side of something, but you're not sure how to do it, or there's indecision about doing it. And then the other obstacle is that something most likely is falling apart. Something's coming to an end. There's an end of a cycle coming up here. And for some of us, especially if we're really holding on, if we hold on tightly to what we've created, if we're not open to adapting, that's going to feel like a rough transition for people who aren't open to adapting. So there's indecision and a fear of letting go. Now, both of these things lead to transformation. Making a decision is one of the most powerful ways to create transformation. It is how you create transformation, and it is what creates manifestation. So my team, I've talked about this in the past, but decision is what we call 0-point energy. So if you want to create something, you're going to have to make a solid decision about what it is you're creating. That is the most powerful place to be in. So it's not, I hope this works out, not I think it'll work out, or I really want it to work out. It's like, this is working out. I've decided it's working out. That's 0-point energy. So in order to move out of indecision, it's a good idea to sort of review what's keeping me confused. What's keeping me confused? And I know for me, what keeps me confused is perfection or needing to control it, which is kind of the same thing, I feel. Right? I need it to be perfect. I need it to look a certain way, or I need to feel more comfortable that it's happening the way I've decided. Those two things create indecision because there's no action I can take from this place if it never feels right or it never feels perfect or I don't feel like I'm in control of it. Then I can't make a decision because I'm not getting those needs met, right? So notice if those things are holding you back from making a choice. So many times we try to protect ourselves from suffering and we end up creating suffering. So hear that again. We try to protect ourselves from suffering, and what we do is we end up creating suffering. So the protecting, the perceived protection is, I don't want to do it wrong because doing it wrong would lead to some sort of negative outcome. Right? I don't want to do it wrong, so that's going to lead to a negative outcome. But the true suffering is I'm staying stuck. I'm stagnant. I'm not really moving, and therefore I suffer. Nothing ever feels like it's changing or moving or having a breakthrough because in reality, I'm not making a decision, right? So we're not making a decision, and that's actually creating suffering. Whereas people who are moving forward or feel traction are making decisions, and they're not making it from a place of what they can control or perfection. They're just getting that inspired action, the feeling like this is what I should focus on and I'm going to put attention here, and they're moving into that. And then the other state that we were talking about, the team talked about, is this, the things falling apart, the end of a cycle. So cycles end. That's one thing that's true is like, just even think about a day, right? A day starts with dawn. The sun goes up to the middle of the sky at noon, and then it comes down. And then, when midnight approaches, it's the end of that day. That is inevitable. It's going to happen. So we have to question, where do we get this idea of like longevity or locking into place, that some event is going to be locked into place? Our own life isn't locked into place. It's inevitable that it's going to come to a conclusion at some point in our life, and yet we can treat our life like it's locked in, like this is what it is every day. And usually it takes big events or big undoings to shake us out of that. And so what they're talking about is there's an approach to understanding that everything has a cycle. You've got to allow yourself to move and adapt with cycles and trust the process. You're not supposed to stay in one area too long. Believe it or not, we're actually supposed to keep evolving and adapting. It feels very uncomfortable, but that's where the magic is, in the evolution and adaptation of your journey. When we get in this place where we're trying to lock it in, we're acting unnaturally, we're kind of going against a cycle, and that's actually what creates the massive disruption or the feeling of it all falling apart. It's not falling apart. It was always evolving. It's just we didn't let go, or we didn't transition with it. We didn't transition with it, and that created a feeling of losing or devastation or, right, falling apart. And so what we're being asked now is to know that it's okay no matter what happens. You're going to move forward. But there is a moving forward with an awareness of like, I have to like hold things loosely. Like I hold it, I enjoy it. Like a cat. I don't know why that's coming. That's what comes into my head. Like a cat. It's in my lap. I love it and I enjoy it. But I know this cat's going to get up and be like, peace, I'm done with you. If I sit there and try to hold that cat on my lap against its will, that's going to lead to an unpleasant disaster for both of us. We're going to both be traumatized if I do that, right? So there has to be this awareness of like, I'm having this, I'm enjoying it right now. It's going to evolve. I'm going to be okay. And the next thing, there will be more of this later. It'll just be different. It'll be different every time. And I'm okay with that. That allows us to transition and adapt much easier than trying desperately to hold on to something that you're comfortable with now. I'm okay with being here now. Well, as soon as you get into that space and you're, sinking your own claws in to the situation, that's when the universe has to like kind of pick up the rug and snap it, right? Snap you off of this one place so that you'll create movement. And that's sort of how we invite catalyst in too. So we're meant to continue to progress on our soul journey, whatever that looks like. And if we stagnate, we have these sort of, I call them mile markers in our soul contract that catalyst will be introduced. Sometimes catalyst is introduced no matter what, because it was just like you needed this big movement. This big movement was going to create a monumental shift in your energy, and it's for your highest good. So that catalyst comes in. Other time, catalyst is designed like, if you don't move, I'm going to give you a certain amount of time, and if you don't move, I'm going to help you move. I'm going to move the landscape so you have to move, right? So that's the energy that they're talking about right now. And they're letting us know that it really is your choice. Moving into a decision, whether you think it's perfect or not, is a strong choice. Choosing to adapt, so we're holding things, we're appreciating what we have, but we're holding it with this air of like, it's, it's going to come, it's going to change, it's going to go maybe, and I'm okay because I know more comes. I don't have to hold on to things so tightly because something else is trying to come through. And we usually can see in hindsight, we wanted the thing that was trying to come through. So I hope this message has been helpful and inspiring, and giving you that little bump of courage that if you find yourself in indecision, you can move from it. If you find yourself fearing something coming apart, you can let that go with love, because the thing that's coming next is something you really do want. You want it introduced into your life. You're going to be loving it not too long from now. So with that, let's do some karma cards and see what the team wants to add. So if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I have got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you use that beautiful intuition of yours. Take a deep breath, tune in, and see what you need. Do you need action related answers or outcome related answers? And of course, you can always choose both. While you're doing that, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for March 23rd through March 30th. And the flavor of this reading, well, just before we started doing karma cards, we were talking about expansion. What's coming up in the cards is a lot of expansion. We've got the planet of expansion, which is Jupiter. Not only that, but in Sagittarius, which Jupiter rules. So we've got Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 3rd house, which is interesting because the 3rd house is ruled by Gemini, which is the polar opposition to Sagittarius. So they're all like interwoven and connected this time. I really love it when they do that. 3rd house is communication and self-expression. So let's see what the messages are. For those choosing action, your spiritual action is to learn or teach your highest ideals by making the right connections. So what I love about the learn teach thing is in the law of one, they talk about learning and teaching being on one spectrum. They're just 2 ends of the same spectrum. So whatever you try to teach, you end up learning more about, and whatever you try to learn, you're able to teach. Does that make sense? I love it. So learn, teach your highest ideals by making the right connections. The highest ideals is coming from your higher consciousness. So learn or teach from your highest consciousness by making the right connections is about how you're communicating with others. So we're asking ourselves to communicate from that higher sense of consciousness. And you can learn how to do this, or you can teach somebody else how to do this by being that example. We're not only asked to be jumping into that being state, but from there start communicating. So I feel like they're building it a little now. So for those of us who've been practicing just being, now practice communicating from that being state, that higher level of consciousness. And either you need to learn how to do it, which is fine, or you can teach through example how to do it if you've already been practicing. Mental action. Be positive about the rules of the idea in question. Okay, this is one of those esoteric answers. So be positive about the rules of the idea in question. So whatever's being put in front of you, maybe it's the decision point, maybe it's the adaptability point, maybe it's something else. Let's look at decision, because I feel like that one's an easier. So that's the idea in front of us, is how to make a decision or making a decision. When we make a decision, what are the rules around that? Well, usually commitment kind of comes in. Once you've decided something, you've locked in an energy signature. You've kind of dropped it down further into the body. So ideas would live up here, passion would live in here, but decision is like right down to the root chakra. It's in your body now. It's locked and loaded. So there's the rules. Be okay with that. Oh my gosh, I know a lot of people who feel indecisive. That's the very thing they're afraid of, is that they're locked in. But here's what they don't understand is like, it's not the only decision you're ever going to make. In fact, there's a damn good chance that you're going to have to make another decision after the initial decision. And you won't, there's the indecision has this fear of missing out, right? The FOMO, fear of missing out. It's more like you need to see it as trial and error. I need to try this. I'm only going to get information from putting myself out there in a certain way. If you let's say you make a decision to sell peanuts. I don't know why. You're going to make a decision. I'm going to sell peanuts now. That's what I'm going to do. So you put yourself out there, you get some peanuts, you package them up whatever way you like to, and you go out and sell them, and you find out nobody's into peanuts anymore. I don't think that's true. I think there's probably quite a good audience for peanuts. But let's say no one wants peanuts from you. No one wants peanuts from you. That's what happened when you made the decision to sell peanuts. Your outcome is no one wants peanuts from you. Do you think that is a bad outcome? I personally don't. I think that's a great outcome. I can check that off the list. No more wasting time here. I don't have to go into peanut manufacturing or peanut growing or anything else to do with peanuts, because now I know nobody wants it from me. And now I get to make a new decision, right? Now I get to do it again. So those are the rules of decision making, is once you've dropped it in, you're sort of locked into a frequency until you make the next decision. Be positive about that. Know that it's a good thing. It gives traction. It gives momentum. It gives you answers that you wouldn't have unless you made that decision. So hear this mental action any way you want to, but I feel like for those who need help with decisiveness, definitely focus on what are the rules of decision, and understanding that you might have mental limits around that which keep you from making decisions. Physical action at this time: grow and expand, get out into the world, and get your ideas going. This is very much about making a decision. Can you hear that? It means it's time to what we're getting is a lot of like specific action here. It's time to move from contemplation into decision. Decision leads to inspired action, which puts you out there. And you need to get out there to get feedback, right? So for those of you who are trying to identify soul purpose and you're doing it all up here, you're doing yourself a disservice, because again, just like my peanut example, you're not going to know if that has traction for you, if that's going to provide anything for you or other people, unless you put it into some sort of decision, which becomes an inspired action. So it's time to do that. That's what the universe is saying. It's like, there's only so much you can think about something. It's not going to move it. If you want to move the needle in your life, you're going to make a decision and move into action. And you're going to know that you're safe in doing that. There's more decisions, that you're not locked into anything. You're just tapped into, like that decision. Yes, it does lock in for a moment so that you can follow through and take action, but you're not locked in it for life. And that's what I want you to hear, in case decision making is something that you feel squirmish about. All right, now let's do outcomes for Jupiter in Sagittarius in the third house of communication. Your spiritual outcome is the granting of insights to understand your ideas. We just said that, but it's here in the card, so it's a done deal, okay? You're going to get more information through implementation. More information through implementation. That's an important one. Write it down. Mental action at this time. Blessings from the wisdom of short-term thinking and trips. So what I'm hearing with this one is it is about making faster action. So I'm working with an amazing coach right now who talks about how money loves speed. Money loves speed. And I'd never heard that before. But I appreciate her saying that because it's talking about you don't hang out in indecision, right? So whatever you're trying to create or generate for yourself is not going to be made and happen or generated from a place of pondering on it too long. Yeah, you're going to need to tap in deeper into yourself if you're looking for inspired action. That's why we want to jump into our being state, but it shouldn't be there. 20 minutes max could get you an answer to make a decision versus 5 months, which I know happens. It happens to me. I'm so guilty. That's why I appreciate this new perspective coming in about understanding that it's not about getting it just right. And I've been in that headspace, so I completely empathize with anyone who's feeling that way. I completely get it. We got to let go of that, though. That's stagnation, right? If we want to actually create some kind of change, whether it's a change in your life for the better or a change in other people's lives, we're going to have to get out there. So we're actually being blessed by doing that there is good, positive, reinforcing energy that comes in when we move into action quicker around making these decisions. Physical outcome, good fortune resulting from the understanding of who and what is around you. This again, I go right back to that peanut example because I think it kind of nailed it. It's like, what do people want from you? Well, you're not going to know unless you put something out there. I'll give you like a personal example from my own business life. When I first started doing Etsy, I treated it sort of like how do I say this nicely? I treated it sort of like a thrift shop. Like everything that I make, that I like making, I just made it and I put it on Etsy and I put it in there. And then I remember I had a real sobering look at it. I actually stepped away from ego. I stepped away from needing it to be anything. I was actually ready to let it go. And I looked at it and I'm like, would I shop here? And my true answer was, no, this doesn't look like anything. It looks like a hot mess to me. Like this person doesn't know what they're offering people. And I got really clear about that. And I was like, wow, this is not a way to treat a business. If that's what I'm trying to be is a business, this is not a way to treat it. If I'm trying to be like a hobby, I guess this is a way to treat it, but then I need to understand that that's how everyone else is going to see it too. And I completely wiped the slate clear and started over. And I had to make some decisions. I had to be willing to let go of everything I was doing. And I didn't make myself wrong because at least I tried something. I put it out there. I got some sales. It wasn't clicking for people. They didn't know what I was or how I could serve them. And I wasn't clear on that either. And so it was just sort of a limp, noodly shop. It didn't do much. And it wasn't until I got really crystal clear on what's inspiring me. And I was inspired by the people I was around, which brings it back to this, because the people who were inspiring me were the people who were tapping into personal growth. They were focusing on meditation. They were focusing on getting in touch with their higher self. And so was I. And I was inspired by that. And so when I got around that community and I started being in the places they were, then I knew instantly what I wanted to do with my shop. And I laser focused on that. and built it into what it is today. And I get clearer and clearer all the time. And I'm drawing people to me all the time who are sharing with me what inspires them and what would help them. And it's priceless to have that understanding. And it's letting us know that all it took was like making a decision. All it took was about like a decision to get clear on my part. That's where I want to share with you, is I had to make a decision to get clear. I had to be willing to look with real eyes and really assess to find out if I was hitting it or missing it. Once I did, I really actually started getting momentum, and it wasn't perfect. It was, in fact, I look back at the second or third versions of my shop and I'm still like, oh my gosh. But I am so grateful for those because they helped build me to where I am. So again, good fortune resulting from the understanding of who and what is around you. So we go back to that peanut example, just by putting it out there and being like, I make peanuts now and I'm putting these out there. You might find that no one wants those. You might find people love them. You might really inspire a whole trend. You just never know. But if you are paying attention to what's inspiring you, if you're asking questions like, why does it inspire me and who do I want to connect with through this? Well, then there's a really good chance that whatever it is you're cooking up and putting out there, people are going to connect with. So the more you understand what's inspiring you and move into action around that, and then really connect with, who does this serve? There's magic sauce right there. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope it inspires you. There's good stuff in making decisions and holding things lightly, right? We're not trying to hold on. We're adapting and moving and expanding because that's our natural progression. So move into those spaces. Let me know if you'd love to do this live, because I'd like to hang out with you live. So put it in the comments and I will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.